100% sure. Did you hear this from the news that Russia has actually officially recognized the?
It's all over the internet. I haven't read it on a Russian website.
Because
So,
what my understanding is that the the Libyan embassy in Russia has officially gone over to the rebels, to the insurgents, and it's hoisted their flag up. It was an internal decision within the embassy and the ambassador, but officially, I have not heard that the Kremlin has recognized them. And I've been discussing this I've been discussing this, and I've been told that the Russians have not officially recognized them, but I don't see the Russians as holding out any longer. They're gonna eventually, everybody's gonna have to, for business interests, we'll probably have to start recognizing.
well, that's right. That's right. Our Western oligarchy, in order to destroy the tribes, will give all the business interests to silence Russia, China, and anyone, to keep them quiet and happy.
Yes, but they have to, like you said, what's happening in Libya is going to be used against Iran, but it's also not only going to be used against Iran, it's going to be used against the Russians and the Chinese too, and they have to realize this.
Somebody has to put their foot down.
They have to realize this because they're the ones that are actually in jeopardy, not Iran. Iran is more in a more flexible position than those two states are. It can actually live within the global empire far more easily than Russia and China. Russia and China are gigantic Eurasian dinosaurs. They're huge countries with huge interests, with large populations, with vast resources, and they are actually the ultimate prizes. There's a big prize, but I mean they are bigger prizes. The Iranians, they don't need as big a share of those two countries, and they can live within a global empire with the United States. And that's what ongoing talks with the United States between Tehran and Washington are about. Making some sort of détente and eventually an agreement. Brzezinski said the best thing for us is to make an alliance with Iran, even if it is a theocratic government. We can still live with them within the imperial system, and they are our best way to opening a door into Eurasia is through the Iranians. If Iran gives in, collapses, or becomes co-opted, I don't think that the Russians can survive north than the Chinese. These three countries are linked together like organs of the same body. There's rivalries between the Chinese, the Iranians, and the Russians. All three have rivalries, and to a certain point, they're allies of necessity, but they cannot live without each other. And the Iranians are they're the weakest link out of all three. That's true, but they are also the ones that have the most flexibility. Yes, they are not puppets. They have their own. They're aggressively, fiercely nationalistic and looking after their own interests. But they can actually they have they have better chances of living within the empire than the Chinese and the Russians. Those are the big two rivals of the U.S. It's not Iran.
We'll have to wait, or you'll tell us more. There's a lot to digest there, Mahdi. I want to thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Sorry I couldn't talk to you in Switzerland.
I was waiting.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
No problem. I made a mistake tonight. I should have restarted my computer. You've been staccato all the way through, but it's my fault. But what you said was brilliant. So, I don't know when you can give us another update. Maybe tomorrow, as soon as you can.
I'm not in Libya. I'd like to get you in touch with some people that could give you some facts on the ground, That's what we all need to hear, facts on the ground. And, I hope that this fighting, this madness stops there.
It's not stopped. It's not going to stop.
It hasn't stopped. No, it hasn't stopped at all. People have become victims. Good people. Good people. There was, I want to tell you something. There was one man, I stayed my distance from him because I didn't think he was a good person, but at the end he was a good person and he gave his life up.
Really?
Yeah, and he said, "Don't forget me."
He gave his life up. I mean, you've got to explain.
He defended the hotel we were in.
The Corinthian?
No, the Rexus.
So he was a foreign national?
No, he was a Libyan.
And you didn't trust him? and then he turned out to be a good guy. Is that,
Yeah,
am I
sometimes
understanding
when
you?
it comes down to it, that's how it is. The people you think, you thought they're bad, because listen, this gentleman's friends were the ones who made the business deals with Sarkozy. They gave the money to Sarkozy, the bribery money from Saif al-Islam in Libya. Sanusi, actually, from Sanusi. It was they gave Sarkozy bribery money so he would get rid of the Libyan files in France, settle them. And this man was involved in it. And I stayed my distance because I think that's a very dirty thing to do, that type of stuff. I won't support it from anybody. And there was some other reasons, and I stayed my distance after I found these things out. And the end, though, I felt very bad. He gave his life up to defend that hotel, and we were all afraid that the insurgents, the so-called rebels, would kill us when they came. Every single person in that hotel was afraid that they would kill us. The so-called liberators, freedom fighters, we were all afraid of them, including the journalists who were rooting for them. We're afraid of them. They weren't afraid of the Libyan, the Gaddafi forces. They were afraid of so-called freedom fighters or the rebels. That's who we were all afraid of.
And you ended up being in their hands in the Corinthian.
Yes, but it was under different circumstances. They did not take over the Rexes. The Red Cross came and got us and took us to the Corinthian. It's very different. If they were to have come there under a war setting, I told somebody from the Transitional Council side, I said, we were genuinely afraid that you would kill us, and you have people who believe they're fighting righteously in a religious context under the banner of Islam. And he agreed with me. And what he told me is the Americans have brought these Al-Qaeda people in. That's what he said. And he said, we don't want them.
Everybody is saying this. Everybody is saying this. It's
the
crazy.
United States has brought Al-Qaeda in there. Yeah, that's the hypocrisy of the global war on terror and all this stuff. They're the ones bringing these extremists, fueling them, funding them.
Absolutely. There were reports of the British flying them around Afghanistan, but there was a big bombing in Algeria just a week ago by Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, and nobody knows why it happened.
And look, the United States wants to use Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb as an excuse to expand its military operations in North Africa. It's very simple. They're putting a budget aside for that. And there's a zone of interest that the French had in Central West Africa, which starts in southern Algeria. They actually wanted to turn this area into a French department. They had a plan a long time ago to make it a French department, which means a direct province of France, and Algeria as well. And this area has been carved out. And now the United States, just like how it's taken over British imperial designs, has taken over the French imperial designs, because the French have been co-opted into the United States global empire. So they've taken over what the French wanted to do in North Africa. And in fact, the uranium company that's owned by the French and a lot of other companies have become integrated with U.S. Anglo-American companies.
But the people that are really driving the banking elite and American policy and legislation, they really want to see the end of Islam and Muslims. They want to see Muslims killing each other. That's what I think.
They want to see people killing each other. They want to control people. Anybody who has anything ideologically or any beliefs that go against what they stand for, they'll oppose, of course, They'll
also oppose people that are attached to the land, indigenous people with tradition and heritage.
Yes, well, this has to do with the cultural aspects of this war. They want commercial consumer cultures, okay? And they want everybody to have this cookie cutter. They want to use the same cookie cutter to make the same model for everybody. Of course, they're going to oppose anybody that's different. What I want to say is, not only are they fighting in these countries with Muslim populations, which are very diverse. I don't want to say you can put Muslims all under the same umbrella, because you have more Chinese Muslims than there are Muslims in other countries, and there's already Asian Muslims, Malaysians and Brunei and Indonesia, they're Muslim, There's Muslims in India, and you have Russian Muslims and Ukrainian Muslims, and Albania is a Muslim country, it's in Southeastern Europe. Bosnia is Muslim, and South Africa has a lot of Muslims, and Guyana and South America is Muslim. Trinidad's a mixed Muslim country. So Muslims are very diverse, different languages, different ethnicities. They're not all Arabs. They could be Europeans, they could be Asians, they could be Africans. But what I want to say about this war that involves these Muslim populations is these areas have a lot of energy. They have certain beliefs that go contradictory to what you mentioned about the banking system, which is what essentially Christians have too if they follow the Bible. Against interest-based banking, and Jews the same thing. If they actually authentically follow the Torah, I'm not talking about rabbinical interpretations. They have these teachings, but they want to redefine Islam, and that's where you see these political parties that are being supported by the United States. There's going to be a new trend of bringing Islamist governments into these countries, which will be controlled by the United States. They will be business friendly. They will not have any problems with. They won't be authentic Islamists, to be honest, because if they were, they would oppose the economic systems. But they don't want to do anything with the economic systems. They just care about Sharia or their interpretation of Sharia.
It'll probably be
very misconstrued.
Probably like the Gulf states today, They're all
states.
Yeah, they're all preaching religion and doing business, hosting Blackwater and everything else.
But this is talk. The Gulf states are the antithesis of Islam. They're royalties. They're elitists. They have hierarchies. They have virtual slavery. They're modern Sodom and Gomorrahs. They are honestly. They're islands of vice in every aspect. People. There's racism, there's inequality, there's sexism, there's bigotry, there's lack of justice, a deficit in justice, there's elitism, like women are treated like objects, people are treated like objects, labor is stolen. There's a mosaic for ethnicity. Not good places at all.
They're not, Mahdi. That's. I should have made that clear. That's what I meant. I get misunderstood. Mahdi, we've been going nearly 40 minutes.
Okay. It's a long time. Well, we're having a good conversation, but I know you get more tired faster than I do.
That's right. You know about that.